The LLC is formed, the EIN is in hand, the operating agreement is signed and stored, and none of that maintains itself. 4 things renew every year in most states. Miss any of them by enough, and the state can administratively dissolve your LLC, which terminates the liability protection that was the whole point of forming the entity in the first place. This video walks the 4 annual maintenance items so you can set up the calendar before you close Module 4, and the formation work doesn't slowly decay into a non-compliance event over the next 12 months. The LLC doesn't stay in good standing on its own, and that's the framing for everything that follows. Formation creates the entity. Maintenance keeps it alive. 4 items renew annually in most states. Miss any of them long enough, and the state can administratively dissolve the LLC. The entity gets terminated for non-compliance. The liability protection disappears, and the work to bring it back is more expensive than the work to keep it current would have been. The whole reason this video exists is to make those 4 items visible before you close Module 4. The State Annual Report is the first item, filed with the same Secretary of State that processed your formation. Despite the name, the annual report isn't a financial report. It's a contact and structure confirmation that the state uses to keep the public record current on registered agent address, principal office address, and managers or members. The fee runs typically $25 to $100 depending on the state. The due date varies. Some states tie it to the formation anniversary month. Some use a fixed calendar date like April 1st for all entities. Find your state's specific due date and add it to the calendar. The report itself takes 10 minutes to file online. Registered agent renewal is the second item, and the operating shape depends on whether you're using a commercial service or serving as your own. Commercial service. They invoice you on an annual cycle, and the payment keeps the service active. Pay the invoice when it arrives, and the renewal is handled. Self-registered and planning to stay self-registered. There's no annual fee, but if you move addresses, you have to update the registered agent address with the Secretary of State promptly. An outdated address on the state record means legal notices may not reach you, which can convert a routine compliance event into a default judgment because you didn't know about the lawsuit. Operating agreement review is the third item, and it's the one that isn't a state requirement but is still good practice. Once per year, review the operating agreement for any changes in ownership, management structure, capital contributions, or material business changes that should be reflected in the document. For a solo coaching practice that hasn't changed materially year over year, same member, same management structure, same general business activity, the review often takes 5 minutes and produces no changes. The point isn't to manufacture revisions. The point is to keep the document current so it doesn't go stale against your actual operating reality, which is what keeps the formality credible if it ever has to be tested. Business license renewal is the fourth item and applies to coaches whose city or county required a local business license in Unit 4.5. Local business licenses typically require annual renewal at the issuing agency. City clerk, finance department, whichever office handled the original application. The city usually sends a renewal notice in the month before expiration. Add the renewal date to your calendar, rather than depending on the notice. Mail handling and address changes cause renewal postcards to miss coaches every year, and the late fee for missing a local renewal is often larger than the original license fee. The calendar entry is the resilient mechanism. 3 bonus items overlap with Module 17's annual cycle and are worth folding into the same calendar. S-corp election confirmation. If you have one in place, the year-end CPA conversation confirms the reasonable salary is still benchmarked correctly and runs the math on whether election continues to make sense at the next year's projected income. BOI report check, the annual visit to finson.gov BOI from Unit 4.9 to confirm current rules haven't changed. Coaching licensure watch list, the annual ICF regulatory affairs check from Unit 4.7. Domain renewals and business software subscriptions are covered in Module 17.6 and belong on the same calendar. Late fees and consequences for missing the renewal scale up faster than coaches expect. Most states assess a $25 to $150 penalty for late annual report filings with a defined cure period, usually 30 to 60 days. Extended non-compliance past the cure period escalates to administrative dissolution. A dissolved LLC cannot enforce contracts in that state, loses liability protection going forward, and may lose limited liability retroactively for the dissolution period in some jurisdictions. Reinstatement is possible but requires paying back fees, paying penalties, and refiling the missed reports, usually several times the cost of just doing the renewal on time would have been. Watch the calendar pattern in a real state to see how the parts compose. Georgia anchors the annual report at April 1st for every LLC regardless of formation date, which is a small mercy because the date is predictable. The registered agent renewal anchors to the agent service contract's anniversary, and the local business license anchors to whichever month the city processed the original application. The 2-week prior reminders matter more than the renewal dates themselves. They're what give you working room when an invoice gets stuck in spam or the agent service changes billing addresses. November holds the operating agreement review separately, so the document work doesn't pile on top of the payments. Action before you close. Module 4 sets the calendar up while it's still fresh. Open the annual maintenance calendar template attached to this unit. Find your state's annual report due date. Search your state name plus LLC annual report due date, and the first official.gov result will give you the answer. Add the 4 core tasks to the calendar with specific dates: annual report, registered agent renewal, operating agreement review, local business license renewal if applicable. Add a 2-week prior reminder for each. Add the 3 bonus items from Unit 4.7, 4.9, and Module 17.6 to round out the annual maintenance cycle. Do this before you advance to Module 5.